Hello everyone, welcome back to DUE 10012 Communicative English 1, topic Oral Presentation Skills, with me Ida Muhammad Isa. In this lesson, you will be able to practice verbal and non-verbal communication skills, present identifiable values from your presentation topics, and use an appropriate conclusion. Effective presentation using verbal and non-verbal communication skills. Let's watch a video to understand what are verbal and non-verbal communication. So using both verbal and communication skills, using both verbal and non-verbal communication skills would make an effective presentation. And non-verbal communication skills would complement a verbal communication. So verbal communication is a medium for communicating that involves talking using the spoken words. So for the presentation, it would be your speech. And a nonverbal communication that involves using cues or via body language to convey message content. So some other forms of nonverbal communication are facial expressions, body gestures, and voice intonation. It will form the nonverbal communication. Correct pronunciation is important for audience to understand your points. There are two important aspects of pronunciation of individual words: word stress and the individual sounds themselves called phonemes. Make sure you know how to correctly pronounce at least the key words or the words that you repeat over and over again in your presentation. Just as in the case of individual words in English, a particular syllable receives stress. So do particular words in a sentence. Sentence stress concerns stressing particular words in a sentence, usually at regular intervals. An English speaker stress words that are important for meaning, such as nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, negatives, demonstratives, and interrogatives. And the unstressed ones will include article, auxiliary verbs, preposition, and conjunctions. The next verbal communication skill is the voice. The voice, or more importantly, the qualities of the voice, should be used to its fullest. Qualities include loudness, speed, whether you go fast or slow, variety of pitch, high or low tones, silent moments or pauses. The voice is very important to indicate meaning. So when you have meaningful main points to present, then your voice needs to be loud and clear. It also creates an atmosphere where you are avoiding yourself sounding monotonous and boring, and that will put everyone to sleep. In your presentation, what do people notice? So in a face-to-face presentation, according to research, 93% of how you are judged is based on your appearance and body language, and 7% is influenced by the words that you speak, which means that people look at you. All right? People won't remember what you said, they will remember how you said it, which means non-verbal communication skills is as important as verbal communication skills in a face-to-face presentation. So non-verbal communication, what must you do? The golden rule is to be natural and relaxed when you are presenting. What are the types of nonverbal communication? It consists of your eye contact, your facial expression, posture, movement, and gestures. And why is nonverbal communication important? It is a natural part of communication. To clarify meaning, it is very useful, and it allows you to be more relaxed and more confident, which means it will avoid you from being nervous during your presentation. To maintain interest with your audience and to emphasize and regulate the points. So, nonverbal communication is when you are talking by, you are also showing what you want to say. So it's very important. You don't want to look like you're a robot presenting in front of your friends. So be natural and relaxed in using your body movement and your gestures as well as your facial expressions. So nonverbal communication is very important because it will connect you to your audience. Having good eye contact is very important in presentation. So maintaining eye contact with your audience have two major benefits. Firstly, your audience or your friends would feel that you have a genuine connection with them and you care about what they are looking at, their reaction to you. Apart from that, it gains the audience attention. So if you look at your audience, then your audience will pay close attention to what you are saying. Next, facial expression. Facial expression means what you display on your face, right? So it should be natural and friendly. So don't forget to smile. Examples of facial expressions are you raise your eyebrows to show surprise, you open your eyes widely, squinting of your eyes, knit your eyebrows to show some puzzlement. Okay, so in presentation, people like to look at your face. So what you express on your face would add meaning to the points or the information that you give. Another powerful non-verbal communication is proper posture, because posture will show whether you are confident or not during your presentation. So proper posture would include standing up straight, standing tall. As you stand upright, you also want to be relaxed and natural. Stand with your feet apart and your shoulders squared, facing the audience. So a relaxed and straight posture will convey that you have more confidence and you have authority in your presentation, right? And avoid improper posture like slouching or leaning. Some presenters, they would become overly nervous and attempt to hold on to something, for example, like a podium or a table in front of you, and they would be moving left and right. All right, so avoid from the improper posture, avoid from slouching or leaning on walls, tables, or podium. So it will appear that you have lack of confidence, which means that your presentation would not be that effective. So your stance should also be natural and not stiff. If you appear too rigid, it will convey discomfort to your audience. And when your audience sense discomfort, it takes their attention away from the message that you want to convey to them. So in presentation, when you have good posture, it does not mean that you're just standing straight like a robot, right? You need to also have movement in your presentation. But what I mean by movement is not uh, an over movement. Okay? It should be a control movement because it is actually an extension to your posture when you move. Okay, but too much movement, it can make you seem very nervous while standing in front of your audience, and it might seem awkward to your friends. So limit your motion, but you can move if you want to emphasize a point or you want to make a transition in your presentation. Okay, so for example, if you want to emphasize a point, you can lean or move forward to your audience. Okay, and when you're indicating a transition, you can move from side to one side. Okay, but avoid over movement, like for example, you're circling the whole class or the hall, or you're walking, back and forth in front of the stage or the class, right? So if you have a podium in front of you, then it's safe. Okay, because only the audience can only see your upper half of your body, and it gives you a place to rest your arms. But remember, if you have a podium in front of you, you must not lean on the podium. All right. You don't just be static at when you have a podium in front of you. Okay, so know how to use the correct movement during your presentation. It would definitely give you more confidence when you present in front of your friends. Okay, so we've talked about posture, we've talked about movement. Now, gestures. So gestures means, for example, your hand movement, right? Or your head. Okay, so similarly to your body movement, you have to limit the use of gestures. Okay, so to show emphasis or transition of a point, you can use this to help the audience focus on your point. So what are the movements? For example, up and down head motion, or other movement to indicate importance. So if you just stiff on your head, like you don't move your head at all during presentation, then one thing for sure, uh, you would get a back, neck aching, right? And you would look awkward. So tend to do some head movement, okay? Just some slight movement, okay? You can use a pen or pointer if you have to indicate the points on your slide, okay? You can use your shoulder, okay? Shrug your shoulder, okay? Shrug your shoulder saying that you don't know, and using your hands, okay? So back and forth or will show like possibilities or more or less in your points, okay? Moving your arms back and forth. So limit the use of hand gestures too. But use it. Don't just put your hands at your side and stand still. Then you'd be singing the national anthem. Okay, you're not singing the national anthem. You are presenting in front of your friends. So just like the picture show, use your hand. Okay, it would definitely give a style in your presentation, and audience would focus on what you are saying. In your presentation, you would need to present an identifiable value. So what is an identifiable value? Let's understand what are core values. Core values are the fundamental belief of a person or organization. This guiding principle would dictate behavior and can help people understand the difference between the right and the wrong. It would also help someone to know the right path of fulfilling their goal. And there are many, many types of values in the world, but it depends on what is the context of your presentation. So, how do you identify values? Okay, values about your life to inspire or to share the topics of your presentation with your friend. So often when you hear someone discuss why they fell in love with the other half, they would mention that they have the same values. In this case, they are often talking about core values or internal belief that dictates how life should be lived. Okay, some examples of the core values people might have about life would include a belief in God, a spiritual belief, okay, a belief in being a good individual, right? A belief that family is important, all right, or a belief in good characteristics like honesty, trustworthiness, being responsible, okay, and also a belief in maintaining healthy work or life balance. Okay, so we have been instilled with values all throughout our life, okay, by our parents, by our community, and by even social media. So the positive values are important for you to identify in the presentation topic that you choose. Okay, and it will allow you to convey the positive messages to your friends during your presentation. Okay, so of course, core value does not always have to be positive. It's not always positive. So some people may be driven by self-interest or greed, as you can see in social media nowadays. And these are core values too, but they dictate how they live a negative life. Okay, negative attitudes and core values can also be developed when people live in a fear or insecurity about some circumstances. Okay, so some negative core values includes the following, which is a belief that the world is fundamentally a brutal place and that only the strong survive, a belief that people are powerless to change their fate or personal situation, a belief that other people are fundamentally untrustworthiness and unloving, or a belief that life is meaningless. Okay, so why do I touch on negative values? Because negative values exist. It exists in our world, it exists in situation, maybe not in our life, but in the life of other individuals. So in a presentation, if you choose to do negative values, what you can do is you can start off talking about the negative values, but at the end of your presentation, you would persuade or convey what are the positive values that one should have, okay, as you know, as replacing the negative values that they have. Okay, because in reality we know that there is problem in some family institution, in working institutions. So it's not wrong for you to talk about negative values, but at the same time, when you have negative values, you should always relate to the positive ones. Okay, so let's look at some of the examples of positive values that you can highlight in your presentation. So choose a topic. For example, you're talking about ways of being a successful student. So what are the values that you need to have to be a successful student? So from the list here, you can say being consistency, having commitment, being efficient, okay, being motivated, compassion, and being creative. Okay, so those are some of the values that you can get based on the topic of being a successful individual. Okay, so if you choose to do a topic on, let's say, the environment, so what are some of the values that you can choose from the example given? It can be reliability, having efficiency, innovation, and creativity in the environment, okay, having compassion for not throwing rubbish everywhere, so having a compassion, okay, respect, okay, education, environmentalism. Okay, so each topic should portray values. So identify the values that's related to the topic that you choose. Okay, and try to expand the points based on the values. So you look at the explanations in terms of what are the examples. Okay, even if you have examples that's related to your own life, then you can share it with your friends, okay, to expand your points or your on the values that you have chose. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, in your presentation, you need to instill values, right? So, for example, when you choose a topic, you must highlight the value that can be instilled in individual, such as personal values, family values, social cultural values, or spiritual values. Okay, so you can present 3 points, which means 3 different values that you can get from the topic and give the explanation or examples for each of the value mentioned. For example, if you choose a topic, curb your calories, okay, which means keeping yourself healthy. So value number 1, healthier body, right? And supporting details. Knowing your calories will allow you to control your food intake. Eat healthier foods such as vegetable, lean meat, proteins, and fruits. Okay, so see how you relate the values to your elaboration of points. This is a sample of your presentation outline. So identifying 3 main points which consist of value. So you start off with a title, right? And then greeting and introduction of your topic and what is your value. So try to generate some ideas on what are the main points and the supporting points that can be extracted from each value that you have chosen. Okay, so have at least 3 main points and the supporting points. And lastly, the conclusion as well as the Q&A session. Right? So if you follow this sample of presentation outline, it would make you be ready for your preparation of your presentation. So preparation is very important. So you know what you're talking about during your presentation. Okay, so lastly, a presentation would end with the best ending. Okay, so how do you use an appropriate conclusion to your presentation? So you may end your presentation with either one of the following combination. So you can summarize the content of your presentation by summarizing the key points. Okay, you don't have to elaborate, but you can just restate all your 3 main points in your conclusion. And you also can give some recommendations for your audience. Okay, so they would get what is the best thing that they should do based on the topic that you have mentioned. So when you are giving the recommendation, you are connecting your topic, your points to the audience. Okay, or you can also give a quotation or a question. So that would leave the audience with some exciting words that would inspire them, okay, that would help them to be better in their lives, in developing the values that you have mentioned in your main points, in your topic. Okay, so expression to deliver the conclusion. So don't just stop your presentation by saying the end. That's all. Okay, so drawing to conclusion, you can use phrases like to conclude, in conclusion to my topic. Thus, we can say that I can finally say that. Okay, then you can summarize your content by using these phrases. Now I like to summarize the main points. The 3 points for the topic blah 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 is or are, okay, or you can say in brief, I've discussed about the benefit of exercising, the benefit of eating healthier food, and to socialize with others, for example. Or you can say I've emphasized the following points. Okay, and ending the presentation. So it's best that you end the presentation by thanking your audience. So that would show that you are appreciating your audience for listening to your presentation. So you can end by saying, I would like to thank the audience, or I would like to thank all of you for listening to my presentation. Okay, thank you for your attention. This is a sample presentation, how to do the conclusion to your presentation. Watch the video, listen carefully, and this will help you to develop a good conclusion to your presentation.
Hey, this is Carl from PresentationExpressions.com with another sample presentation for you today. Today, I'm going to demonstrate how to summarize your presentation. Why is this important? Because you must always tell your audience what you told them to remind them what you talked about. They also need to know that the presentation is over. You have to guide them along and tell them every little thing that you're doing is what I'm trying to say. So the expression that you're going to use for this, actually, I taught you last time. It's very easy. Here it is. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. Let me give you a summary of what I've been talking about over the last blank minutes or hours. Then you're going to summarize the main points of your presentation, like this. First, I introduced A and said X. Then I gave an explanation of B and told you why W is important. And finally, I described how to implement C by developing Z. So, here's my sample presentation using those exact same two things you just heard. The topic for mine is going to be 3 clever fixes for your broken stuff. Now, I'm only going to do the conclusion, okay? I will quickly tell you the main points of my presentation, but then I'll skip into the conclusion, all right? So here we go. The first thing I'm going to talk about is how to fix loose glasses. The second thing I'm going to talk about is how to fix a broken hard drive. And third, I'm going to talk about how to fix a wet cell phone. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. Let me give you a summary of what I've been talking about over the last 10 minutes. First, I told you how to fix constantly loose glasses with clear nail polish. Then I talked about how to fix a hard drive by freezing it. And finally, I explained how to fix a wet cell phone with rice. So after you do that, you're going to go into your Q&A, all right? So here's a short summary of what I just talked about. I just talked about an expression to help you end your presentation. And that expression was, and that brings me to the end of my presentation. Let me give you a summary of what I've been talking about over the last so many minutes or hours. After that, you should summarize the main points of your presentation. Then you would go and start your Q&A. So, here's what I want you to do for the action steps for this. I need you to choose a topic with 3 or more main points. Then, I want you to write a short summary for those points and practice using the conclusion expression until you feel comfortable and you have memorized the conclusion. Now, I want you to do it in front of a friend. The last thing is, you should prepare a short, full presentation to practice all the expressions that I've taught you so far. Not just today's conclusion, but everything that I've taught you. And finally, please provide us with your comments and feedback. We really try hard to provide really good content for you guys, so please let us know how we are doing. We would really, really love to hear actually your comments and feedback. So, thank you very much, and see you again soon here at presentationexpressions.com.
That's all for the lesson today. I hope that you have gained some valuable information. And thanks for watching. If you like the content of the video, then give me a thumbs up and do subscribe this channel to get more communicative English lessons. I try to post weekly, and hopefully that I would maintain the weekly post of the latest videos. Thanks. It's me, Ida Muhammad Isa, signing off.